Alright, been thinking a lot about the issues with the gearing, the way it's set up, the gear dust because of the improper mesh. So I had taken everything apart and I only had the right half out, and I was fiddling around with the gearing and the mesh, and I had taken the motor off so that I could freely spin everything. And I noticed with the main gear off, the gear mesh was really good between the A gear and the B gear. I didn't have any problems. It didn't bind at all. You couldn't feel any pressure. It sounded alright. But as soon as I fully seated the main gear, I think with that main gear, when you fully seat it, it pulls down the A gear. And when you pull down that A gear even slightly, it messes with the mesh between the A gear and the B gear. So I was thinking, what if I put this collar from another shaft down at the bottom? Because technically what you have here is you have the collar here, you have the gear here, which is pressing that bearing, and down at the bottom all you had was pressure from one side, which is the main gear. So if you put that main gear on too tight, what you're doing is you're slightly pulling this B gear down, and it's putting more pressure on this mesh. So what I did was I installed a collar from another shaft down at the bottom. I had to file a little bit because the bearing block on the bottom is a little bit thicker than the bearing block on the top to get this to fit right. And when you're doing it, measure twice, drill once, cut once. It's an old carpenter saying. So just be careful when you're doing this. I would think if you screwed it up, and you could twist it around 90 and re-drill another hole. I've done one flight on it. It's really smooth. Before, I noticed that you would set up the gearing, you'd think it would be fine, you go out and fly it, and it would sound right, and you could hear the change in the sound as the gearing mesh changed during flight from the pressure of maybe the shaft is moving up and down. I mean, you can hear the gearing change. Everything sounds alright, then it sounds bad, and then for 30 seconds it sounds good, and you can just hear the changes in the sound of the gearing as it is flying. I had none of that. It was totally 100% consistent sound throughout the flight. I don't see any dust, and I haven't really even lubed this yet. So I think that is part of the problem is people are putting this main gear on a little too tight. It's pulling down, and it's creating friction on the A gear and the B gear. So I'm going to do a few more tests with it, but the preliminary test was very good, very positive.